There are moments in life, small moments, that feel like a line in the sand. Moments when a person, someone in power, decides to draw that line just to see if you'll cross it. For me, that line wasn't drawn in the dirt. It was drawn in a university attendance sheet, and the man holding the pen thought he was untouchable. He laughed in my face when I asked for a simple correction. He thought I was just another student. A nobody. He didn't know I was about to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. And the classroom? It was about to become his personal stage of shame. If you've ever felt that deep, burning fire of injustice, the kind that makes your hands shake and your jaw clench, then this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and prepare for one of the most satisfying tales of academic revenge you'll ever hear. Let me take you back to my grad school days. The air was thick with ambition, caffeine, and the quiet hum of computer labs. I was studying programming, a field I was decent at, but not exactly passionate about. It was a means to an end. My classes were a blur of code, algorithms, and late nights. But there was one class, and one professor, that stood out. His name was Professor Thorne. Professor Thorne didn't just teach programming, he taught the cult of himself. The first few lectures weren't about binary or syntax. They were about him. A slideshow of his achievements. His face, a perpetual sneer, glowed under the projector light as he walked us through a PowerPoint of awards, publications, and professional conquests. It was a bizarre, almost comical display of narcissism. We weren't students to him, we were an audience. And I, for reasons I still can't comprehend, was his least favorite member. I never did anything to provoke him. I wasn't a loudmouth, I wasn't a slacker. I just existed in his classroom, a ghost in the machine. But his eyes, whenever they landed on me, held a particular disdain. It was the look you give a fly on the wall, a nuisance to be swatted away. Now, at my university, there was a strict attendance policy. You had to be present for at least 80% of the lectures to even sit for the final exam. It was a rule etched in stone, and for obvious reasons, I took it seriously. I showed up for every single class, even on days I would have rather stayed in bed. I was there, a silent observer in the back row, soaking it all in. A month into the semester, the attendance report was posted. I scanned the list, my heart doing a slow, nervous drumbeat. My eyes found my name, and the blood drained from my face. I was marked absent for almost every single class. A cold wave of panic washed over me. I couldn't breathe. My brain started racing, trying to make sense of the injustice. I had proof every day. I logged into the university's network, and the login history had a timestamp. I saved every single file with the date. But that felt like a flimsy shield against an institution. The only person who could fix this was the man who had created the problem in the first place, Professor Thorne. I walked to his office, my stomach tied in knots. I knocked on the door, and the sound echoed in the quiet hallway. He looked up, his face an impassive mask. I explained the situation, trying to keep my voice steady. Professor, I think there's been an error with my attendance. I've been here for all the classes. He leaned back in his chair, a slow, malicious smile spreading across his face. An error? I assure you, there's no error. My stomach clenched. I don't believe you've learned enough in my class to deserve the attendance. My jaw dropped. The audacity was breathtaking. Deserve it? Attendance isn't about what I've learned, it's about whether I was in class. Is it? He scoffed. If you think so, then you'll prove it. Right now. You're going to answer a few questions. And you're going to show me your notes. I require a notebook with a full summary of all my lectures. A notebook? We weren't required to take notes. None of the other professors had that demand. My hands started to tremble. This wasn't about grades, this was personal. This was a power play. He was using his authority as a weapon. Of course, I didn't have a single notebook with a full summary. I had random notes scribbled on loose sheets, notes from my laptop, notes that were personal to me. He smirked, a cruel glint in his eye. I'm sorry. It seems you don't deserve the attendance. Your loss. I walked out of that office in a daze. My entire future at this university, my graduation, was on the verge of being derailed because of this man's baseless vendetta. The feeling wasn't anger. It was something heavier, a soul-crushing despair. I wanted to just give up. To walk away. But as I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen, a different emotion began to simmer under the surface. A quiet, cold resolve. Thorn thought he could play God with my future. He thought I was just another anonymous student he could swat down. I was about to show him exactly who he was dealing with. I remembered a small, unassuming book that was given to us during orientation. A small, blue book no one ever read, the student rulebook. It had all the basic, boring rules: no smoking in class, respect your elders, the usual. I decided, in a moment of pure desperation, to give it a read. And there, buried in the fine print, I found it. A rule stating that even if a student was up to 15 minutes late for a lecture, they were still entitled to full attendance credit for that class. Thorn's power play was built on a lie. He didn't have the authority to withhold attendance for a subjective reason. I went to the computer lab, pulled up the logs, and took pictures of every single file I had saved, with the date and my name in the corner. I highlighted the exact rule in the student handbook. Then, I wrote an email. A cold, formal, and devastating email, detailing everything: his refusal to give me attendance, his arbitrary demands for notes, and the rule he was directly violating. I hit send and watched it fly into the digital abyss, straight to the head of the department. The next day, I was summoned to her office. I sat across from her, a calm, kind-looking woman, and laid out the entire story, from Thorn's ego-fueled lectures to his malicious power play. I presented the proof, the logs, the screenshots, the exact page from the rulebook. She listened patiently, her expression growing sterner with every word. When I finished, she nodded slowly. You are absolutely entitled to that attendance. There is no rule requiring any summary of notes, and Professor Thorn has no right to demand that. I will have him make the changes immediately. She promised action would be taken against him. I walked out of her office, my shoulders lighter, my head held high. Justice was being served. Or so I thought. The very next day, a message from Professor Thorn. He wanted to meet with me privately in his chambers. I felt a prickle of unease. He had lost this round, but I knew he wasn't a man who accepted defeat. My gut screamed at me, something is wrong. I grabbed my phone, turned on the voice recorder, and slipped it into my pocket. My hands were a little clammy, but I walked into his office with a facade of calm. He looked different. The usual sneer was gone, replaced by a pathetic, almost desperate look. Look, he began, his voice low and shaky. That email you sent, the head of the department, she said I might lose my job. I've been a professor here for 20 years. This is my life. I need you to do me a favor. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Just write a single email. Just one. Tell the department you made a mistake. Say that you were confused and you attended the wrong class, and that's why your attendance was low. You just got the wrong room number. It was your fault. I'll still give you the attendance. I promise. I pretended to consider it, a slow smile forming on my face. Okay, Professor. I'll do it. I nodded, a silent contract. I walked out of his office, the recording burning a hole in my pocket. I knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted an official email from me, an admission of guilt. He wanted to use my own words against me to save his skin. He thought he had me cornered. But what he didn't know was that I had a trump card. The next day, I went back to his office. "Professor," I said, my voice dripping with false sincerity. "I sent that email. The one you asked me to send. Can you please update my attendance now?" He laughed. A deep, guttural, cruel laugh. The mask of desperation fell away, revealing the monster underneath. "What email? What attendance?" He leaned in, his voice a venomous hiss. "You admitted in writing that you attended the wrong class. This is on you. You're getting nothing." He looked triumphant. He thought he had one. He thought he was playing 4D chess, and I was just a clueless pawn. He had no idea I had a voice recorder running, catching every single one of his treacherous words. My revenge wasn't just about winning. It was about exposing him for the fraud he was. I didn't say a word. I turned on my heel and walked straight to the dean's office. Not the head of the department. The dean. The dean of the entire faculty. I walked into her office, a woman known for her no-nonsense attitude, and told her a professor was trying to illegitimately fail me. I pulled out my phone and said, "Here's the proof." I played the first recording. Him admitting he withheld my attendance because he didn't think I deserved it and his ridiculous demands for a notebook. Then, I played the second one. The audio of him trying to manipulate me into writing an email to save his job, only to laugh in my face and admit it was a lie. The sound of his malicious laughter filled the silent room. The dean's face was a mask of cold fury. She just pointed to the door. "Leave it with me." And then, I walked out and waited for the show. The next class, Professor Thorne walked in. His usual arrogant stride was gone. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red, and they darted nervously around the room. He didn't make eye contact with anyone. Then, a few minutes into the lecture, he stopped. He looked at me, a pleading, tearful look in his eyes. He began to cry. In front of everyone. He stood there, a 40-something-year-old man, a supposed pillar of academia, weeping openly. He mumbled something about how his career was over, how he might get fired, all because of me. He was playing the victim, trying to turn the class against me. But it was too late. He had been exposed, and he knew it. His tears were not of regret, but of pure, unadulterated shame. He had tried to break me, and I had broken him instead. He wasn't fired. But he was placed on academic probation. He lost his teaching privileges for a semester and had to undergo a disciplinary review. He never looked at me again. He never spoke to me again. He just existed. A pathetic shadow of the man whose ego was once a volcano. And me? I worked harder than I ever had before. I learned that programming I hated, just to spite him. I scored 90% in his class. I had to prove a point. And I did. The professor who tried to fail me cried in front of everyone. And that, my friends, was a sweeter victory than any A+ could ever be. Reflective wrap-up. Sometimes, justice isn't about the grand gestures. It's about a quiet moment of resolve. It's about remembering a tiny rule in a useless book. It's about a single recording on a phone. The biggest bullies are often the biggest cowards, and when you confront them with truth, they often have nothing left but tears. If this story gave you a chill of satisfaction, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this.